People always say that you have to have money to make money, and that there's an extraordinary level of sacrifice on the road to success. So how is it that investors like us who didn't start out with much money and who don't rely on banks and credit, how is it that we can increase our income and build our wealth in a way that doesn't require us replacing one full-time job with another while still enjoying the things in life that matter most to us? That has always been the big question, and this podcast reveals the answers. I am Carrie Like, and this is the Investor Warrior. Hey everybody, welcome to the Investor Warrior Show. So happy to have on here Mike Morawski. He is the author of The Exit Plan. Now, I printed all of this out, but it is an ebook. You do not have to print it out, but it is. So I'm going to be honest, I'm not fully through it because it is 250 pages, but I'm about halfway through it. And I've learned a lot since I've been going through your book, Mike. So thank you so much for sharing that with me. And I'm happy to have you on here because you have an amazing story. You have an amazing journey. But you also have 30 years, which is 3 decades of real estate investing experience. So you're about 2 decades past me.
Do you really have to say it like that? I mean, it's just like.
Well, you obviously started very, very young. As soon as you came out of the womb, you were investing in real estate.
Thank you. There you go. That's better. That frames it better.
And what caught my eye, and I got to be on your show, but what caught my eye is that you were able to acquire 4,000 units in 30 months. Is that correct? After acquiring your first unit?
Right. We did our first apartment deal in 2005, and it went well, very well. And I raised $18 million and bought 4,000 apartments. It was about $60 million worth of real estate in 30 months. Went on to build a property management company managing about 7,500 units. So
that's amazing. And so now you are a coach, you're a public speaker, you're still investing in real estate. So, what I'd like to start with first is your journey and your story. And then I think what I'd like to do is kind of get into the nuts and bolts of what you teach, because I'm mostly single family. We do have a couple of multifamily units, but that is not my primary focus. However, this year we are going to be shifting into the multifamily world. And I know there's a lot of similarities when it comes to single family and multifamily, but there's a lot of differences too. So let's start with your story and your journey first.
Sure. So, I think that real estate has been something that's been in my blood forever. And it's funny because I didn't come from a family that had real estate background or even entrepreneurial background. So I was in the construction business and had a very successful residential construction company, did a lot of kitchens and baths and room additions. And one morning I woke up and I looked at my wife at the time and I said, I'm burnt out. I can't do this anymore. And I was still banging nails. And so I sold the company, took a year off to decide what I wanted to do. And during that time, I house hacked a couple of 2 flats. And this is long before house hacking was even, a buzzword or sexy or fun to do, right?
Right.
And now everybody does it. But during that time, I met a real estate agent. And Carrie, I've always believed in the fact that success leaves clues. And so I went to him and I said, hey, listen, I know you're really successful at what you do. And at this time, I want to say that he was earning probably somewhere upwards of $500,000 a year in commissions, which was, $500,000 a year in commissions, which at that time, 30 years ago, was a lot of money and really kind of unheard of, And I said, can I shadow you and follow you? He goes, I'll tell you what, I'll make you a cassette tape. And now that kind of dates myself a little bit, but here's the thing about that. It's like a podcast today. I listen to that thing over and over and over again. It's like people will hear things on here and be able to go back and listen to it again and kind of get the full detail, right? And so I followed his systems. I followed his strategy. And in my first year in real estate, I sold 78 single family houses. and then went on to build a team to sell 125 a year. Did that consecutively for about 7 or 8 years, and then went in the apartment business. Decided that I saw in 2005 the market was starting to soften, things were starting to change, and that if I didn't go do something else, that there was no doubt that my lifestyle was going to change. So I had always wanted to be in the apartment business. I'd watched a couple of syndicators in the Chicago market grow their business. One today is the largest REIT in the world. Started out just 4 high school teachers, right? Bought a 4 unit. Now they're in every asset class. And but I said, geez, I understand the model. You know, you raise private equity, you find a great real estate deal, you marry the two, you stay in the middle. As long as everything goes well, Carrie, everybody makes money. And so I syndicated a deal in 2005. We went on to, like I said, raise $18 million and buy 4,000 apartments in 30 months. Grew really way too fast. So.
Yeah. So that's interesting because it is a pretty short span of experience that you had before you went on to grow your portfolio to such a big number. And you were syndicating. So did you have to get a license for that?
Yeah, no, we did everything in the blue sky arena where, we used the exemptions that they allow for how many investors you can have and how many deals you can do and how much money you can raise and things like that.
Yeah, got it. Okay. And, this is part of your journey and your story. And we were talking about this before we came on. And it's one of the reasons why now today you are passionate about coaching others to have success, but to do it the right way. Yeah. And that you actually spent some time in prison for a few things that happened in your life. And so I'd love to just touch on that and not that I want to highlight it, but it's part of your journey. It's part of your story. I just shared with you that we went out to an event recently where I actually met 2 people. 2 people who had done some prison time for some things that they had done either in their business or their life. One was the speaker themselves, the person who held the event. He spent some time in prison and he has a passion for coaching now because of what happened to him. And the other gentleman I met spent 10 years in a death row, high security prison for drugs. And he has now changed his life and is rebuilding his life with real estate. And it was such an amazing story. So I'd love for you to just talk about it if you're comfortable with that, and what you learned from that experience and what you're doing today that's different.
I like the way you kind of just tossed that out there, floated it out there. It was an experience. I learned a lot. First of all, I never saw it coming. I think I made a lot of business decisions and choices that were at the time seemed good, but weren't. And, I one of the things I did while I was gone was I wrote an ethics course and I taught ethics in prison, believe that or not, for 4.5 years. And I really believe that you don't, just because you act unethically doesn't break the law, but enough unethical actions ultimately lead you to breaking the law. And really what happened was, I have a list of probably 30 different things that when I go back in the syndication business or go back in the apartment side of it, I will do differently. Things like I didn't raise enough money from investors. So when the crash came in 2008, we didn't have enough money on the sidelines to weather the storm. We were over leveraged. I was 85% loan to value on all my deals, where, I would never advise anybody to be, less than 65 or 70% less than loan to value, right? We overpaid for properties. A lot of things went on that I just put my blinders on and looked the other way, And I think so often in life and business, people do that. They don't pay attention to the red flags. They don't watch the things around them. I'm sitting at lunch with my CFO, and when the news happened to be on, and we're watching all these people walk out of Lehman Brothers carrying boxes. And this is 2008, right? And I looked at him and I said, "We're screwed, aren't we?" And I didn't say it that way. And he goes, "Yeah, we're in big trouble." And, it wasn't much longer, maybe 18 months, that the commercial side of things fell out. That was the residential side.
Mm-hmm.
And, we had Lehman Brothers and Bear Stearns and AIG and companies that have been around for years and years that went to the wayside because of what happened in the world economically. And I had problems with my apartments. We would go from, it was great because we would buy deals that were, 70% occupied, go in, rehab them, re-engineer them, put them back, get them back up to 92% occupied. And all of a sudden were wiped out. We dropped back down in the 70s, high 60s in occupancy. Carrie, I'll tell a story that I'll never forget. I got a phone call from a woman who's a property manager on a property in Indiana that we own. And she was in tears. It's a Monday morning. She says, "I have 32 moving trucks in the parking lot this morning. I don't have a scheduled move out for 30 days. What do I do?" And, that's what happened across the board. People left in droves and occupancy dropped out. You didn't have the NOI anymore to pay the bills. So because we didn't have enough raised. And then one of the other issues I did was I thought a really smart thing to do would be to write in my offering documents that if we'd never go back to the investors for a capital call. Well, that was a wrong thing to do because we needed capital and we couldn't go back to our investors and ask. Plus, I felt embarrassed, right? Because I thought, so what did I try and do? I tried to shore up the whole thing. I tried to save the whole thing and was impossible. So I had a few deals that were really rocky. Should have just let them go to foreclosure. Should have let those few investors get hurt. But what I tried to do is I tried to save everybody. So I moved money between companies. So I had profitable companies that were doing really well. And I moved money to non-profitable companies thinking, hey, you know what? There's been downturns before. The market will come back. It won't be that bad of a correction. Never did you see a 40% correction coming or a correction that took 8 years to turn around. So I thought, I could lift this whole thing up. I could shore it up. And that just wasn't the case. I moved money between companies and I didn't disclose it to my investors. So because of non-disclosure, I ultimately got charged with wire fraud and mail fraud charges and got sentenced to 10 years in federal prison as a result. So,
wow. I'm sure there were a lot of learning opportunities during that time. I'm going to ask you the same question I asked the individual who I met just a few weeks ago who served 10 years. What is the one thing you learned in prison?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, Carrie, was that not to let it beat you. There's a choice. There's a saying when we go into prison. It says you could do the time or let the time do you. Mm. And I chose to do the time, and it wasn't easy in the beginning. I walked into the gym. I probably had been there 6 weeks, and I had lost everything, just completely wiped out. And so before I went in, I built a business for my wife, a property management company that her and the kids would sustain them and keep them in the house. And so after I'd gone to prison, my wife decided to divorce me, and thinking that wasn't going to happen, that we were going to ride this thing together. So I went from millions of dollars to having a 2x5 locker that I lived out of in a room with 3 men I didn't know, and 3 outfits and 5 pairs of underpants that I mean, that had become my life, and I was wrecked. It was really hard, and it's not an easy place. I don't care if you're in a camp or in a maximum, in a higher up, what they call it, and it's not an easy place. So I walked in the gym one day, and this young guy said to me, he said, "Listen, don't let these people beat you." He goes, "Get that 10 years back." He said, "Start with your physical fitness." He said, "Come to this gym every day, work out." He goes, "I'll work with you. Get it back." And I'll tell you what, Carrie, I came home in better shape, spiritually, physically, mentally, and emotionally than I'd ever been in my life.
Wow.
So it becomes a story of redemption. I think the big thing I learned was don't let somebody else dictate your life or beat you.
Yeah. That is an amazing story, and thank you so much for sharing your journey. And it's just something that's part of your journey. And I'd love to talk more now about what you are doing now, that you are here on the show. You're now a public speaker, you're now coaching, you're a multifamily investor. So tell me a little bit about the years after getting out leading up to today, what you've been doing.
Yeah. So I need to go back just a little bit and tell you what I did while I was away. So that day that I made a decision to do the time and not let the time beat me, I made some choices about what I was going to do in my life. I knew I was going to come home. I love real estate. I've had a passion for real estate for years. And, people say, "Why do you have such a passion?" I say, "Because there's always something new to learn. There's always new experiences." And so while I was gone, I wrote 2 books. I wrote Exit Plan, which we'll talk about. I wrote 2 home study courses. I taught real estate investing and property management. I wrote an ethics course. I taught that while I was there. I went to college. I got a bachelor's degree in theology, taught Bible study for 5 years. I was on an outreach program. I would go into the community and tell my story. I went out probably 40 times. Talk to small business owners in the community and to the local area college students. I just had published, I co-authored a paper with a professor from the University of Minnesota, and we just had it published in the Business Journal of Ethics. It was on my case, and it was a case study, and they've taken it now and they teach it at the college level because it came with a set of notes. So forensic accounting classes and sports and marketing and sales classes teach it at that level because of the things I learned, the things I talked about, the over leverage and the, not paying attention to the things around you.
Yeah.
So since I've come home, I have, released my book Exit Plan and built a coaching and training platform that, it's about giving back today, and it's about giving back ethically and with integrity. How do I help somebody else take a look? Here's what I believe. I believe that at some point in everybody's life, we sit on the side and we go, "Man, how do I make this decision? What's the best way to make this decision?" And we're faced with choices and decisions in our life that we could go one way and something will happen, or go the other way and a totally different thing's going to happen. And how do we make that choice? How do we make that decision? So that's the thing I want people to really look at is if you're having a tough time, if you're struggling in your business, I don't care if you're an entrepreneur, a CEO, just somebody running a team or managing a team in a business environment. If you're struggling, don't hold on to that yourself. Go talk to somebody else, work it out, work through it, and get some good advice from somebody smarter than you.
Yeah, great advice. Let's talk about Exit Plan because I'm currently reading Exit Plan right now. Great information in here, and there are a lot of similarities with single family, and there are a lot of differences with single family when it comes to multifamily.
Yeah.
And as I'm reading the way that you go into these properties, you analyze the numbers is that, well, number one, it's a numbers game, right? Like you go into every single line item and look at the numbers because based on what I'm reading here, your goal is always to decrease your expenses and increase your income, whether that's through upside potential, adding things, increasing rent. And you really get into the nitty gritty of the numbers, even if we're talking about 400 or 500 unit apartment complexes. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah. Because it's scalable. The business is scalable. I was on the single family side for a long time. I owned, hundreds of single family houses over the years, fix and flips, buy and hold. And it was just, I saw the economies of scale where it was better to have 100 units in one location than 100 scattered site, right? Because when you deal with 100 roofs or 100 furnaces, and it becomes time consuming, right?
Yeah.
That's where the economies of scale come in on the multifamily side. And it's easier to scale up. I'll never forget this. I fly into Nashville one morning, and I'm going to rent a car and go to Huntsville to look at some properties that we own down there and a couple more deals. And I get on the phone and I call my partner and I said, hey, tell me, how much money do we make per door after all the smoke clears? So after we pay all the bills, we pay the investors, we get a return, we pay ourselves, how much do we make? What's our profit? He said, I'll call you back. He called me back. And I think the number was like $9.92 a door, something like that. So I figured it out really quick. I said, geez, $1 million a month, 10,000 doors. I said, that's the goal. And I think at that point, we were probably about 2,600, 2,700 units. And I thought, God, what a great goal. We just kept buying and buying. And so I think the scalability is there, right? And the ability to scale and grow. All of a sudden you buy a 200 unit apartment complex, you go, wow, I got 200 more doors,
Yeah.
So,
yeah. The single family is a slow burner, right? Versus the multifamily, where it really could just take one deal. One deal is all you need sometimes to get the ball rolling and to meet that financial goal that you're looking at. When I first got started in real estate investing, my goal was to replace my income as a physical therapist. At the time, I was making like $70,000 a year. Well, that's a lot of single family homes. And I wanted to do it in a 6-month time frame, right? And when you're making $300 a door, it's going to take a little while. So I said, okay, we're going to go into flipping. Like, I didn't even think about holding yet. I needed to replace my income before we could transition into holding. But with multifamily, if that's your focus, you can make that a goal with just one deal, right? So my question to you is, let's just take example, someone like me. I've been mostly single family, and let's say we want to get into multifamily properties where I want to start doing 200, 300, 400 doors in one deal. What are your suggestions for even like getting started, raising the money, getting my feet wet in that arena?
Walk slow and learn what you need to learn along the way. It's an education process. Hey, I bought that first deal. It was 11 units and I knew nothing. We didn't do any due diligence. I didn't do any upfront evaluation. I took the seller and the broker's word on everything. Oh, this is a great deal. You can get in. You'll be able to raise the rents $100 a month. Oh, really? Great. We'll do that. We'll fix it up. And I was so excited that we were raising money. We were able to do this deal. We were pulling it all together. We got the funding that when I closed on the deal, I went, oh my God, look at this bag of bricks I just bought. It was terrible. And I couldn't get back out of the deal fast enough. But you learn along the way. From that point, I sat down with my broker. I said, hey, look, we have to do something different. We need to write a buying strategy. So I put together a buying strategy. I think that this business all becomes about systems and strategies. What do you want to accomplish? You can have your goal, but why is that important? How do we dig in? How do we help somebody really figure out what's important? Hey, a lot of people say, I want to make more money. Well, here's $10. There's more money, go away, right? But what does more money mean? There's a deeper meaning to it. Today, it's not about money for me, right? I always wanted to make $1 million a year. I did that. I accomplished that. It's not about that. It's about the comeback now. And so I think people need to reframe things and how they move forward. But it's about education. So you have to sit down. I was on a coaching client with somebody yesterday. I said, "What do you need to learn?" He looked at me like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, what do you not know that you need to go learn?" And there's 4 quadrants that we can spend our time in, right? There's I know what I already know. I know what I think I should know. I don't know what I don't know. And I need to know what I need to know. And, that's the place where we need to spend our time and figure out exactly what you need to learn. Do you need to learn about raising money? Do you need to learn about due diligence? Do you need to learn about the traps up front? I talk in my book Exit Plan that you should not close on a deal till you know what your exit's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't necessarily mean selling the deal and giving up control and walking away. It's some event that happens along the way.
Yeah.
I tell people, Carrie, I say I do a 10-year spread when I go to put an apartment deal together. And over that 10 years, there's invariably a sweet spot somewhere along the way, 6 years, 8 years, somewhere in there that your most profitable point is. Well, why not do something at that point? Recapitalize, bring a partner in, restructure the deal, do something that's going to absorb your profitability, and then do the deal again, right? Look at it again. So these are the things that I talk about.
And it's so key too, because I think that we get all excited acquiring the deal, but we don't spend enough time about what we're going to do on the exit part of the deal, because we get all caught up in the acquisition and then the actually management of the properties. And it's interesting because I went to a Tony Robbins business mastery event, and I remember he asked, and this is all different kinds of businesses, not just real estate. So there's small businesses, large businesses there. And he had, he was interviewing someone in the crowd, and he said, "What's your exit plan?" And they said, "What do you mean?" He said, "What's your exit plan with this business?" And I said, "I don't know, work until I die, and then the business dies." And it was interesting because he said, this was a room of, I can't remember how many people were in the room, but probably a couple thousand. And he said, "A show of hands, who has an exit plan in their business?" And I'm telling you, there wasn't a lot of people in the room that had an exit plan in place for their business, because they were caught up in the everyday activities of their business that they weren't even thinking about the exit strategy of the business. And it's the same thing in real estate, I think, is sometimes we get just so laser focused in the everyday management, the everyday activities, that we really don't create a plan in the beginning about some kind of a general plan of what our exit strategy is going to be. And that exit strategy, it's like a roadmap, right? That's our destination. So if we don't have the destination, how can we build a plan to get to that destination?
So 2 things, right? So I read a book years ago by Stephen Covey called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Chapter 2 in the book is exit plan. Start with the end in mind, right? And I don't think we do that in life. We jump into things, we're ready, fire instead of ready, aim, fire, right? And that so you need to start with the end in mind. The other thing is, I just read a book. Was like 379 pages. I just love this. I think it's great. And I get to page 370, and there's a little 8-line paragraph, and it says, "Well, this brings us to the exit plan." And I thought, what do you mean this brings us? And I read on, and it said, "After all your hard work, now you need to think about exiting." And I thought, geez, you should think about exiting before all your hard work, so that there's a saying in real estate, right, that says you make money on the way in the deal based on how you buy it. The problem is that you don't realize it till you exit. So how do you know that you're going to, if I'm going to make $100 on this deal, I need to know when I'm going to get it, right? Because I don't get it up front. Typically, I have to exit. So how am I going to do that, right? So that's the point I make in the book. I think in a number of stories, it's not just I use that 400 unit deal in the book, and not to scare anybody, but just to show people the scalability, right? I started with 11 units and then I'm buying 400, but there was that transition, right? The education process along the way, 64 units, 80 units, 100 and some, and grow from there. So.
And I think that some people can get fearful of the numbers when you start talking about a 400 unit apartment complex. What you bought that 11 plex, was it a similar system that you would have employed on the 11 plex than you would have on the 400?
Yeah, I always tell people, I say, listen, if you're closing 20 units or 200 units, the systems are the same. If you're closing a 2 unit or a 20 unit, the systems are the same. It's just a little bit longer, a little bit more difficult, but the systems are the same. Up front, look at the traps, evaluate the traps, go to contract, negotiate the same way, watch your steps along the way, do your due diligence the same way. And it takes you to the end result. It's just, in some cases, you're doing more units than you are in others.
Yeah. And I can imagine that this system takes both patience and time invested. And sometimes you've got to become emotionally detached. Is that correct?
Yeah. So do you want me to talk about that? You must have got to that. Must have got to that story in the book.
Yeah. But also I've struggled with this in the past. Where I get emotionally attached to the deal.
Yeah.
And when I know that the deal's not working out, I try to make it work, right? And that's where we get into trouble. And that's where we buy properties where we're like, why did I ever buy this in the first place? And I think we all need to have more patience in real estate investing, no matter whether you're doing single family and multifamily, but multifamily is going to be much more due diligence, much more time invested. And I can imagine that there's going to be even more emotional attachment to it because of the time that's invested to analyzing the deal.
Yeah. So I always say, don't fall in love, right? I've bought deals where the seller's been emotionally involved. They're hard deals to get out of the closing room. I've almost bought deals that I was emotionally involved. I think I tell a story in the book that, listen, if you're driving, don't close your eyes. But if you can close your eyes right now and listen to this, put this picture in your mind, right? It's a beautiful spring morning. The birds are chirping. The dew is coming off the grass. The steam's rising off the swimming pool. You can hear the landscaper in the distance cutting the lawn. You can smell the fresh cut grass. The flowers are popping through the dirt in the flower beds. And I'm walking this property early in the morning, sipping my coffee with the property manager, and I'm falling in love. Now, Carrie, I can't tell you if I'm falling in love with the property or the property manager, but I was falling in love, right? And for the next 6 weeks, I was in a dispute with my acquisition special or my underwriter in my office. And she would say, don't buy this deal. It's not right. There's things that aren't right. And she would point things out to me. And I go, oh, we can deal with that. We'll work through it. It'll be fine. We can re-engineer that. We can fix that. And she was right. We wound up walking away from the deal and not buying it. But it was a struggle on her. And she was good at what she did. This woman, she would walk into a boardroom, go through a 40-minute PowerPoint presentation, tell us why we shouldn't buy a deal when she knew very well that we should buy the deal. So, when you have people like that on your team or in your network on your side, it really helps you, make smarter choices and decisions.
It's a perfect example of the old adage, love is blind.
Boy, is it.
Just blind to all the numbers.
Right.
Okay. So tell us a little bit now about what you're doing currently.
Sure. I'm in the coaching and training space. Like I said, I like giving back. So I do a few events throughout the year, boot camps, all based around multifamily. So I'll do 3 boot camps this year, one on acquisitions, one on understanding multifamily. So I talk a lot about that economies of scale and the differences, property management. And then I do a virtual 3-day summit at the end of the year. We'll have 20 well-known speakers from around the country who will participate. It was a great event last year. We had a good time. So, and everything's virtual this year because we just didn't know what was going to happen, with the world and Corona. But I also do personalized coaching. So I have a group program and I have a couple of personal one-on-one programs that I work individually with people. And, I'd like to say I work in this box, Carrie, and that we follow systematically, 14, 15 different phases through that box, which we do, networking and how to buy deals and goal setting and negotiations and, everything you need to know, underwriting and due diligence. And we work through all of that. But really, it becomes more personalized. I actually had a coaching client say to me, she said, "Hey, listen, where do I draw the line with this? I have some personal things going on. Can we talk about that?" So really, it becomes more about a personalized program for what the individual needs right now, where they're at in their life. How do we help them move their life personally and professionally to the next level? And here's what I know for sure. Nothing changes business in our business life until we change personally. So that those changes have to happen for us before they happen around us or in anything else that we're doing. So that's kind of where my focus is with people. So here's what I like to say, that I'll help you scale your business and live a more balanced lifestyle.
I love it. And I had Moose on here yesterday. He was part of your team. So this is just great that we had you on after, because yesterday was all on mindset, all on the principles of Napoleon Hill and Think and Grow Rich. And it's so true and I think that every successful real estate investor that we've had on the show, I don't know that we've ever not touched on mindset, ever.
He's awesome. Carl Moose, he's awesome. We do that Saturday morning, Multifamily Unplugged, and we have a great time. And, over the years, he and I have built a really good friendship, but he's in the game. I mean, from a mindset standpoint, and I think that that's what keeps people in the game, right? Because there's those mornings you wake up and you go, "Oh God, why did today even have to happen?" Right? And you kind of go, how do we get through this? But it becomes mindset. And I faced 7 years, almost 8 years of days like that, where it's like, how am I going to get through this? How are we going to get through this? But, if you dig down deep enough, you can find that strength, that inner strength, because we all have it. We just got to go get it. And the discipline to do the next right thing, to walk in integrity, to build your life, build your business. And, I think it comes a lot of it. How do we bless those around us? And that's why I'm in the coaching business, because how do I give back today? So.
Yeah. And I'm sure that you went through experiences that you never thought you were going to go through in life when you spent those 8 years in prison. But I'm also certain that you grew as a person. And my husband and I were just talking to our 17-year-old about how we really truly feel that our one main purpose here on life as human beings is to grow our character. It's not about acquiring material things. It's not about because he was, he was struggling with something, and we sat down and we said, it's a character. It's just growing our character, and these challenges that we're going through are just opportunities to grow our character, if that's how you're going to see it. And the fact that you were able to publish books, to teach, to learn new things during those 8 years is like a true testament to taking a challenge and making it into an opportunity to grow.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
It is humbling, because none of it was easy along the way, and every day was a battle. But, looking forward in anything that we do, this goes back to your comment about patience, right? I learned patience.
Mm.
Looking forward in anything we do, it seems like we have this mountain we need to climb. But when you look backwards, you go, holy cow, look how far I've come, right? So where were you a year ago? If you look back, Carrie, where were you at a year ago in comparison to where you're at today, even in the midst of the pandemic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So just think, wow, if I just keep doing what I'm doing and chunk this out a little bit every day, where will I be in a year from now? Hey, you wanted to accomplish that goal of replacing your income in 6 months. Whether you got there or not, you got somewhere, and we're able to look back and go, I accomplished it, or I got halfway there, or wherever you ended up. You look back and you go, man, I can't believe I got all that done. Mm-hmm. So, I think that everybody needs to look at that, and gratitude for what you have versus what you don't have is such a big part in people's lives. It's a big part in my life, and should be a big part in people's lives, because I think that that's what keeps us, on a higher plane, right?
Yep. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for coming on here today to sharing your story. Exit Plan is it's a 239 page book, or 239 page book, and it's like packed full of information. I'm learning a lot on it. So I'm so grateful just for you coming on here and talking to the listeners. And I'd love to know, where can people contact you if they have more questions?
Sure. And, Carrie, I'd love for your listeners all to go download a copy if they want one. And I know you downloaded it, so it's an ebook or download.
I like reading because I like highlighting. But this morning, my husband was like, what's printing over there? You're going to waste all our ink. And I said, no, I need to print it because I've been reading it on the computer, and now I want to go back through and start highlighting stuff. And
I'm the same way, right? I want a book. I want to dog ear it and highlight it and write notes. And so there is a book copy too. But if you want to download an ebook, you can go to mycoreintentions.com and /exit plan. So mycoreintentions.com /exit plan. You can download a copy for yourself. And I just ask people, hey, let me know what you think about it. Give me your feedback. Write a review, send me an email, whatever. There it is. But and if people want to get in touch with me, they can just email me at mike@mycoreintentions. So
great. All right. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. Oops. I just grateful for your time here today. And make sure you guys are following Mike. Download Exit Plan. I promise you, you're going to learn from the book. And thank you again for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, Carrie. I really appreciate it.
All right, you guys. I hope you all learned something today. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show. And remember, you are only one deal away. Take care.